Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Six Figure Souls, Doing Good and Making Money. I am your host, Camille Miller, the founder of the Natural Life Business Partnership, a global network for soul-centered entrepreneurs. Today, I am with Monica Henderson of Los Angeles. Hi, Monica. She is a business mogul, and we're going to talk about all the brands she's done and launched, one being MinkLife Motivation. Thanks, Monica, for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here in this platform with you.
I am too. So let's dive right in. Let's start from the beginning. So you told me in the beginning that you really have transformed your life, and this is why I chose you to be in the summit. You transformed your life from a single mother, a homeless single mom, to mentor, speaker, socialite. I want to hear a little bit about that journey if you'll share it with everyone.
Absolutely. It's, we all kind of have that moment in our lives that kind of propel us into our true who we are. And so I am no different. I of course have had a series of unfortunate events happen to me over and over again in my life, but there's this one particular set of a series of unfortunate events that really kind of solidified my path to where I am now. And that was I had decided that I was going to do it. I was going to take the plunge. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm not going to do that job anymore. I'm not going to work for anyone else. I even got a tattoo because I was like, people who have tattoos, right? They are harder to employ. And since I'm never going back to having a regular job, I'm going to get a tattoo. Now it's in a reasonable place and you can't even see it unless I have a tank top on. But nevertheless, I was so committed.
You did it.
Yeah, I was committed to this life. Now, I did not have a savings. I did not have a rich uncle to give me money. I wasn't like, certain people who have like people who can loan them money. I didn't have great credit, none of those things. All I knew was I got it. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to take the world by storm. And so I took the plunge. At the time, I was a single mother by choice. I've always wanted to be a mother. I could not at all fathom myself as a wife or committed to a man in any kind of way long term, but I knew I wanted to be a mother. And so it was me and my daughter, and I was like, it's my time, I'm going to do it. So at the time I was living in Lake Elsinore, California, which is in a small town here in California, about 50 miles from Los Angeles. And I had begun networking and meeting different business owners, and they were actually saying, yes, you can help me in my business. So I was starting the business consulting. And I was in the baby stages of it. I had an old junky car, and I don't want to call it junky because me and this Saturn were like best friends. I spent so much time in it, driving all over Los Angeles. I think I put 200,000 miles on the car in a year, right? Like it was some serious driving that was happening there. And so I was, I had this car, I paid cash for it. And I was on my way to see one of the clients who were nowhere near where I lived. And my car broke down on the side of the road. Instantly it went from fine to overheating in like 2.3 seconds. I'm pulling over, smoke's coming out the hood of the car. And later I found out that the block was cracked, right? Which if you know anything about cars, that means the engine is dead. You got to replace it. Yeah. And so there I am in this position where I had just started my business. I'm just barely getting things going and I don't have any savings. So a car that's not working means I have to go get another car. I didn't have any money for a deposit. I didn't have money for anything. I only had enough money to pay for the bills at the time, right?
Gotcha.
And just that time, not beyond that time, only that time. And so I found myself having to make a hard decision. What do? I live in a neighborhood where I can't walk to anywhere and get food or groceries. I'm in a very residential area. So I need a car just to get the basics done. I just got all of these clients who are all over Los Angeles, who are nowhere near my house. And this was pre, Zoom calls. And,
Right.
I was lucky I had high-speed internet, right? So it wasn't like I could service the clients from a distance. I actually had to be there in person in order to service them. And I just found myself in this place where I could not service them anymore. I couldn't live in the neighborhood I was living in because I didn't have a car, and I had a 2-year-old that depended on me. And so in a weekend, I borrowed a car, packed up the house, hired a couple of guys from Home Depot, moved everything I owned into a storage unit, and found myself sleeping on a friend's rollout mattress in the living room of her car. Now, obviously, the immediate mom instinct in me was just find a place for us to get safe, right? And I gave, notice to the landlord and everything. So, we were safe on this mattress. And when I got to that place, I said, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here, right? I thought that this was going to be my big time. This is my big break. I'm going to be able to move it. That's why I got the tattoo, right? Like, I'm here, it's happening, right? Why isn't it working? Why isn't it working? And I couldn't figure it out. And there was this little kind of inkling in me that remembered a story. Not necessarily a story, but like a section of my own story when I asked to be successful come what may, right? I had this soul conversation, and that's a whole different other story. We'll go down that path one other day, or you can read my book later. But while I was on a date with this guy at a church, long story. And I had this conversation with God, and I said, I am going to be the best version of myself come what may. And you'd be surprised what happens when you get shook out of your comfort zone. And that's really what the universe did. It had really just shook me out of my comfort zone. If you're going to be the best you can, come what may, all of this, none of this is going to work. And so I laid there and I was sad, and I was like, I can never be here again. She's 2 now. She'll never remember this, and that's fine, right? But that means I can never do this again. This is the last time that we can live like this. And so I told a lie. All great things start with a lie. I told a lie to my friend that I was staying with, which if you're an entrepreneur, everybody in your life is rooting for you to either hit it big or get a job, right? And so my friends were like, oh, well, clearly you're not going to make it, so maybe you should just go find a job so you can make some money for a little while and then try it again later, right? They always think of it as a cute little hobby. But I was serious about it, right? I was like, no, this is how I'm going to make my living. And so I told her, can you watch her? I'm going to go look for jobs this week, and I just need someone to watch her while I do the job hunt. And she's like, okay, no problem. All excited because I'm finally resigning to the fact that I need to get a regular job. And I didn't. I went to the 99-cent store. I bought myself a spiral notebook and a pack of pens, and I went and sat at a park. And when I went to sit at that park, I said, I can never be here again. What the hell do I want? What do I want? And when I sat with that question for a little while, 3 things came up. I wanted to be healthy, both mind, body, spirit. I just wanted to be healthy, right? I wanted to be able to have like a clear mind and not feel like I have any of the emotional baggage from like my entire life hanging on me. I wanted to actually physically feel good. And that was a priority for me. I wanted to be wealthy, but I've never been driven by money. It's never been I'm not made that way, right? So wealthy for the sake of wealth has never kind of made sense to me. Every sales job that I've ever had, they're like, yeah, these dollars and that dollars. And I'm like, yeah, I don't care about that. How am I helping people, right? And then from that space, I've always been successful. And so I was like, well, maybe I need to figure out what wealthy means to me, right? And redefine that a little bit. And then the last piece I said is I want to be fulfilled, right? Like, I don't want to just work for the sake of working. I want to feel like I'm not working at all because I'm being myself and I'm actually being able to show up and just like thug it out and be like, hey, how's it going, right? And just be me and not have to put on some airs or facades for anyone. And so when I came to that realization, I realized I don't know enough about those 3 things. I don't know enough about what health means to me. What does my health look like? I don't know what wealthy looks like to me. And I don't know what fulfills me, right? So when I'm bouncing around from this thing to that thing, some things make me happy, but then there are parts of it that are like, this is, and I felt like I was settling, and I just decided I was never going to settle again. Settling had got me to the point here again, another tragedy, and here I am starting over from scratch again. I can't possibly settle one more time. And so from that, I gave myself the opportunity to ask questions, just questioning, what does that mean? And I began to ask the questions, and I asked them in a way that I told myself, because me and myself, we have lots of conversations. I don't know about you, but
the board meeting, that's what I call them.
There's a lot of crazy happening in here. And so there's all these, these thoughts that are going on. And I'm like, okay, ask the questions, and don't get so heady that you're like, is it the right question? But just ask it. And even if it seems stupid, still ask the question. And I set a timer for 2 minutes, and I literally wrote as many questions as I could possibly write in 2 minutes, right? And I did it on healthy. So I asked all the questions I could think about health. What does health mean? What does my health mean? Could I possibly be as healthy as I can possibly be? What does that look like, right? What does good food look like? What foods are really detrimental to me? What kind of exercise do I want to do? Just asking just questions after questions after questions. And then I did the same thing. What is emotional health? Well, that was one of the huge ones for me. It was like, what is a healthy relationship? What is this? What is that, right? I'm asking these questions. And then I did the same thing for wealth. And I did the same thing for fulfillment. I asked, what is wealth to me? Does it look like a dollar amount? What kind of money would make me happy, right? What kind of money would I need to have in order to have the lifestyle I want to live? What is the lifestyle I wanted to live, right? All of the questions. And some of them seem stupid, right? They seem like frivolous or unnecessary, or like, the answers to that. Why would you ask yourself? But I gave myself the space to ask myself honestly, without any judgment of how frivolous the question could be. And then I did the same thing for fulfillment. What were my favorite jobs? Why did I like them? How can I create a job that would actually allow me to do that as well? What does that business look like? What am I good at? What am I not good at? What do I really like, right? Just questions. And I didn't answer any of them in the 2 minutes. I then spent the next couple of days answering every single question. Actually answering those questions. And when I began to answer those questions, a theme started coming out, and my truth actually started showing up in front of me. And it looked like my entire life, I had made decisions that were not actually decisions that I would have made had I asked myself these questions before. What I realize now that I did not know then, but have tried and tested, is that we all make decisions from 2 places. Every single decision in our lives are made from one of 2 places. It's either from pain or from a vision. And so you're either pushed into making a decision because it's painful, or you're choosing to make a decision because you have a vision of what you want. And I had realized that day in the park, and now I realize that that's what I was realizing. Because, when you're in the moment, you're not like, oh yeah, I'm genius. I know this is what's happening. It takes a little reflection, right? Back in the day, I did not know that. Now, when I look back, what I figured out that day was I no longer want to be pushed by pain, right? That car breaking down, pain, right? Having to move out of my house, pain. Having to sleep on that thing, pain. Those were all catalysts for me to do something.
Yep. And
right?
you did. Yeah.
And I did, right? And I always do that, but I had always done that. Something happens, it's painful. I don't want to do this. I make a decision to do something else. And I decided that time in the park, that I was going to no longer be pushed by pain, but I was going to be pulled by the vision. I was going to choose what I want and make the decision before the universe kicks me there. Right. And we all know we need to move on, right? We all know we've been having that nagging voice, the God voice, the quiet, the universal whisper saying, you need to move on. You need to move on. It gets a little louder and a little louder. And every time it gets louder, it gets a little more painful and a little more angering and a little more this and a little more that. We all know that we need to move on, but we don't take the time to create a vision to do that. And so this one particular time, I chose to write a vision. And I wrote that vision, and I decided that nothing in my life was going to be outside of the scope of that vision. It worked so well that even my husband ended up coming from that story. And let me just, I know this is like a divergent a little bit, but I feel like this is a good story to tell you. So I wrote in that story the place I was going to live, the schools I want my daughter to go to, how I wanted to spend my time and energy giving to the world so that I can get money in return. I wrote the activities I want to do, the people I want to rub elbows with. I wrote everything in there. And I thought I was being generous. And I was like, oh, well, there's this guy that I'm dating right now, you know, the one that I went to church with and figured out that I come what may, the whole thing. I think I am going to write in my story that he's going to pick me up on a date in the car that he wants, right? So I'm going to manifest for him too. I'm going to put him in the story as well. Well, unfortunately, that guy did not make it, but the BMW actually did make it into my life, because when I met my husband, he already had that car. They have the same physical description: tall Black man with goatee, bald head, you know, caramel complected, athletic build, Midwestern upbringing, lots of things the same. However,
that's pretty specific.
Very specific. Yeah. So everything that I had wrote in that park that day, when I was working through what the life that I want to live, manifested in my life. And it took 4 years to get there from start to finish. But ultimately, I got everything down to the floor and direction of the apartment I moved in the neighborhood that I wanted to live in, 1 block from the actual place that I thought I was manifesting for myself. Incredible. And I mean 1 block in that we share the same street, but it's on this end of the block, and I'm on this end of the block, right? So the power of creating a vision for yourself is hyper important, because when you can choose to be pulled by that vision and you make your decisions specifically from that place, it makes all of your decisions a lot easier and harder. Easier because you know that this will not work. Mm-hmm. Harder because most of the time that first step in this direction, directly toward your dream, is uncomfortable. Yeah. Because where you were was comfort, and where you have to go is unknown. And where you have to go might require sacrifice up front, but does actually get you there long term. So now I live 1 block from 2 grocery stores. I have a Whole Foods in one way and a Rouse store in the other way, right? All of the major shopping, walking distance. Staples Center, the movie theaters, 2 movie theaters in walking distance. I have all of the museums and clubs and bars and restaurants all in my neighborhood. I can do a bar crawl in my hills. Super convenient now, right? But at the time, I had to make a decision to be uncomfortable all the time. I had to take a commuter bus, because remember, no car. So I had to take a commuter bus into Los Angeles, into where I wanted to live, in order for me to actually build the life that I was looking to live, which took me 1.5 hours each way, right? Uncomfortable at first, but now the comfort of not having to go anywhere but into my guest bedroom to do my work substantially easier, right? Yes. And all of the other things, all the other brands and all of the other businesses that I've built are super convenient for me now. And they all nurse both sides of my brain, which allows me to be holistically fulfilled. And they all are built into my healthy lifestyle of being able to eat fresh foods and have a walking neighborhood and be active and vibrant and fun. And I have friends that are actually on the same vibration with me. So when I talk business, they're not all bored and like, oh God. And I don't like talking about children. I have a 13-year-old now, but I'm not a yoga pants mom who wants to sit around and talk about what happened with the kids. I'm not that person. And so I have friends that support the true me and how I want to live my life. And so in all of the areas, it's super convenient for me now, but I had to originally make all the uncomfortable decisions.
That's incredible. That's incredible. But I totally align with you. That's totally aligned. And it's funny, as you were talking about, I always wanted to live in a walking neighborhood, but never did. And when I was divorcing, trying to figure out how the hell am I moving on, I used to come to the neighborhood I now live in and walk the streets and know that universe was bringing it to me.
Yep.
I'd be like, Do I want to live on this street? I couldn't afford any of it. Do I want to live on this street?
Right.
Do I want to live on this street? This is where I want to live. And I did get that house.
Yeah.
Like, but it was just
Because you
amazing.
were pulled by a vision though. And so
I did. I wasn't settling either. Like I knew where I wanted to go.
Mhm.
Yeah. And people are, yeah. Even I'm amazed. I look back and go, how? like, I literally have no idea how everything aligned for it to happen. But I'm amazed sometimes when I look back and see what created. But okay, so you touched on so many things, and it's an amazing story, and I so appreciate you sharing it with us. Friends is a big one. And I just want to touch on it because you talked about people supporting you. And a lot of times when entrepreneurs, people are starting up, there's not a lot of support in friends and family because they don't want you to live the comfort. They don't want you to leave the comfortable circle of you all being alike and complaining, right? Mm-hmm. So I always tell people, those aren't your friends. Like you need new friends. Like you want to hang out with the people who you want to be like.
Yeah.
So did you change along the way? And I always say up level your friends, your life. When you up level, everything around you has to up level.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Because they don't you need people who understand it. And I always try to up level one step ahead of me. Right.
Yep.
So when I was looking to be a part of the business community, and my friends were looking to be in 9-to-5 jobs and nursing and, and like kind of jobs that are a little bit more on the traditional path. Yeah. When I would talk about the discomfort of, you want someone to be able to commiserate with and for them not to talk you out of like, well, I don't understand why you're doing that in the first place. And so, yeah, every iteration of my own growth in my career, I had to up level. Now, that does not mean that I stopped being friends with the people that I had collected along the way. But what it meant is I had to be intentional about how I spent my time and gave my energy to those people. And so I always say you love from a distance a little bit, right? Like you check in on the birthdays, life events, and those kinds of things. But when it comes down to like having a friend to confide in, I always want my friend to kind of either be on the same level or a little bit further in me so that when I'm complaining, they're not telling me like, oh, that just sounds like too much work. You don't want to do that. Right. Why don't you just go get another job, which is what I had to do. And during that journey, I had 3 different friends, 3 different instances tell me, it seems like you're unhappy. Why don't you just go get a regular job? And one of the things that we teach in our program at MinkLife Motivation is we teach that you have the right to nurture your own life plan. And when you are nurturing your own life plan, that means you have to protect it, right? You have to protect that plan. Yeah. And so it almost feels like an echo chamber at some points, but I also have friends who will like not let me lean on the lazy side on my dream. Well, you said you wanted to do this by the end of the year, so I don't understand, right? Like they're even like tough love in that way. Like, well, you said you were going to launch this platform. What's like, stop complaining, just do the work. You're right. Let me just do that, right? You need friends who are going to be that friend to you, not well, that sounds hard. Maybe you should come and hang out with us on the beach instead, right? You want the friends who kind of understand what mentally you're going to have to go through and the things that you're going to have to overcome. And so my friends now are more like, take a day for some self-care and then get back in there, right? Versus, that's hard. I don't know why you work so hard like that. I could never work that hard. Like those friends are not going to fit in this particular life in that way. And so it's really important for you to kind of align your friends. And this is the reason why all of our best friends are coworkers, right? All of our best friends are always coworkers. Yeah. And the reason why is because you can commiserate about the same stuff, right? You can understand each other in the same stuff. And so that tribe that you build around you should be in support or like-minded to do that. And what's funny is, so I couldn't find that in my actual friend group. So I started my own friend group on a meetup, and we call it Mink Socialite Society. And our mission was, we are a sisterhood of career-minded individuals who get together to discuss life, love, and the pursuit of our dreams. I messaged that very specifically because I was looking for women who were not interested in just commiserating about their children, but I was looking for women who also were like me, who I'm career minded, right? I know I have something I'm trying to achieve in the world in the career space. Yes, I happen to be a mom. Yes, I happen to be a wife. Yes, I happen to be a sister. You know, I happen to be all of those things, but I have a very specific, clear journey that I'm on. And that journey does not diminish the other relationships I have, but it is my journey that I really want to go on. And I needed other people to do that. And so I created a whole sorority for myself just so that I could have those people in my circle.
And was that the start? Tell us about your brands, because I know it also is MinkLife, and I want to know where that name came from.
So Mink, actually, so there's a long story in a short story. I won't give you the long story, but the short story is that Mink stands for Motivate, Inspire, Network, Knowledge, right? And then the life is a life designed by you for you, and we do everything healthy, wealthy, and fulfilled, right? And so everything that I build has to have those four things. It has to be motivational. It has to be inspirational. It has to be connected to, you know, like really connected and personal. And it also has to help people learn. So even when I created my custom clothing company, Mink Couture, I was doing formal and bridal wear for women who were conservative in their religious or their style. And they wanted something beautiful that reflected their personality. Just because I'm religious doesn't mean I don't want to be gorgeous. And so I worked with a lot of Orthodox Jewish women and Muslim women to create amazing wedding gowns for them so that they could keep their religious, their conservative, you know, things, but still feel absolutely fashionable and absolutely beautiful. It was always, and I'd actually go to the weddings. And when I would go to the weddings and I would dress them on their day, I would be giving them affirmations. So I'd be like, this is the beginning. I want you to make sure that you are living in every single moment of this, because this will go so fast. And you want to be able to take those snapshots of seeing the people with you. So don't let any of the details of this wedding distract you from the real true thing here. It's you, it's him, and all of these people are here to support you. And as I'm zipping them up and bustling them and doing all of those things, I'm speaking life into them, right? And that was when I was making the dresses and we were hand sewing lace, I was giving my blessings into those dresses. It was really important for me for everything that I do to be purposeful and intentional, and not just fashion for the sake of fashion, but for it to actually have a deeper meaning, purpose, value to the people that I was working with. And so I did formal and bridal for lots of Orthodox Jewish women, and quite a few Muslim women, and a few non-religious women, but it was mostly that was my niche specifically.
Wow. So you have the Mink motivation platform, you have the Couture platform, you have the Socialite platform. What else do you have?
Yes, so I also have a conference series called called Next Global Virtual Conference that was a coronavirus baby. It's my newest of the babies that I created. And that came from a pivot, right? I wanted, back when I was 28 and we was sitting at the park, I said I had 10 years in me to work really, really, really hard, right? And I was gonna retire at 40. I pushed it to 42, so I'm I have a little more space, right? But I wanted to retire out of working hard inside of my business. And so what I had decided I was going to do was that I was going to scale. So I had to have a business that could live without me. And that's the difference between being an entrepreneur and a solopreneur, right? The entrepreneur is about building the business so the business exists on its own. A solopreneur is building a business so they have a job to do on a regular basis and that they're sustained in that space. I didn't want to be sustained in that space. I actually have a passion for travel. And I promised my daughter when she skipped basically when she did kindergarten and first grade in the same year, that when she graduated from high school, we would do a gap year so we could do missions all over the world. And she could have this she was going to be 16, turning 17 when she graduates from high school. And I just felt like she needed some space before she picked something serious to do in her life. And we could do that by giving back to the world. She could see the world, have this amazing experience, then go off to college and be boring, right? Like after that, I don't care what you do, but let's at least have this moment. And so another reason why I wanted to retire at 40 something was so that I could be present for that year. And so that, because that was my passion, I needed to make sure that when I walk away from this business, that I could actually travel and do all of those things and it still earn money for me. So at the time I said 10 streams of income that bring me $2,000 a month, which means that's $20,000 a month. There's no way I can spend $20,000 a month, because for two reasons. One, I'm a minimalist, and two, I am frugal. So there's no way on earth that I could ever spend $20,000 a month on personal expenses. I just, there's no way, right? I would literally, there's no way.
Gotcha.
So, so I wanted to scale. 38 tapped on my shoulder. Hey girl, hey, you're 38 now. Where are you at in that scale moment? Oh, yeah, I'm still coaching one, and then one, and then one, and then one. And there is no way for me to walk away from this and keep making money. Got to do something about that. So I spent a year remembering that story I told you about how I did that for myself. Yep. Figured out what the process was I did, and then matched that to psychology. What was the psychology behind what I did? I then actually realized that what I did for myself was actually cognitive behavioral therapy and behavior modification. I identified the pattern, right? I broke the pattern, and I did that because I systematically asked the right questions and moved myself along. And so my program itself is designed to help people kind of create an action plan for themselves so they know what steps to take in order to get to their goals. However, the beginning of 2020, it was my year. All of us, we were like, whoa, 2020 is our year. We gonna make it happen, right? And I had everything all lined out. All of my cards were all stacked. I'm gonna do this conference, and I'm gonna do this intensive in April. I'm gonna hire a corporate event planner. I'm gonna do it at a hotel, a really nice hotel, so make sure it matches my brand, you know, the whole thing, right? And then coronavirus politely came along with all of us, slapped our hand, cards go everywhere. We're scrambling, trying to figure out what it is. In the meantime, we got to find toilet paper. And then I had this whisper. The whisper said, girl, find people who are like you. Because there are people scared right now.
Yeah.
And just need to hear from people like you. So find your other people. And so what I did is I put one post out on Facebook, and it said, calling all dynamic speakers. If you are a thought leader, a change maker, a coach, anybody who has anything inspirational to say, we need you right now. Your voice is needed. One post. In 3 weeks' time, I learned how to do a conference on Zoom. I put together 6 PowerPoints to run an event. We had 6 sessions over 2 days. We covered 24 topics, 24 breakout sessions, and 24 panel discussions, yes, with 43 speakers, and magic happened.
Wow.
That happened is every single soul who touched that event grew. Every soul. They grew.
Yeah.
We learned from each other what we didn't know. We figured out some stuff that weekend. We really came together. After that, I watched my Facebook feed blow up, because at that point I just made 42 new friends, right? And I saw all of them collaborating. They didn't know each other before that weekend, but now I was saying these 2 people are doing a live. This group of people are doing a conference. These people are working together, and they're telling me, oh, I was talking to so-and-so when I did my follow-up calls. Oh, I was talking to so-and-so. She's going to be working with me on this. Everybody's business has changed. And I said, well, that's interesting. Let's try this again. So we did it again in July. This time we called it Change Your Life, Grow Your Business. Same results. Wow. Same exact results. And so I decided we were going to make this conference a thing. It needed to be out there because we're still stuck. We're still trying to figure it out. And this time I called it Next. What's next for you? What's next for your business? What's next for our world? Right? How can we come together to level up together. It's time to level up. And so now we do these things quarterly. And that is another brand. Again, coronavirus, again, another pivot. But this time I was pulled by a vision. Mm-hmm. There was no pain there. It was like, I have a vision. The vision is to change lives. And if I have that vision of changing lives, then this inconvenience of not being able to do the event that I thought I wanted to do can now be pivoted into how else can I do this? And it wasn't painful. It was actually for the best thing that could possibly have happened to me, right? And so that's so important.
That's incredible. Yeah, I think coronavirus changed a lot of us. And for the right people, it became so much better. I don't know if the right people is the word, but it was just pure. I think 2020 was just pure opportunity and growth.
Yep.
For those that were ready for it.
Yeah, I had to keep reframing it for people and saying, hey, look, this is the first time in history that all of your major networks and normal people in their living rooms are using the same platform to put content out. I was watching the news person give me my news from a Zoom from their house. Yeah. So we were all on the same, it was the great equalizer, and it was an opportunity for all of us to do it, right? Yeah. It was like, just what it is. The draft, the NFL draft happened via Zoom. I mean, if you think about it, it's like bizarro land. Yeah.
And in a very beautiful way, though, I think broke down is not it, but we, like, even for me, like I do the summit and everything else, and I actually always met people through Zoom, but I always got up, and it was like, and I think it became so real about who people are. You saw, even with the news people, you saw kids running through the backyard. You saw, and people became more authentic. Yes. I think relationships became way more authentic. And people are now living their truth more, right? I think it became very clear who was important to us. Right? Because we kept those relationships alive. I think a lot of fake friendships kind of fell by the wayside because you didn't need them, right? And you saw what was really important to us during that time. And I think it's still changing. I think it's still happening, but it was such an awakening in so many ways. I mean, this stuff wouldn't have happened.
We're never going to go back. We're never going to go back to what it was. Yeah. And I'm so excited about that. And what's really funny is right now, most of my best friends, I've never seen their legs. I have no idea what the bottom halves of their bodies look like.
That's so funny.
It's like,
it's awesome.
Shoulders up. Hey, you're fabulous. Shoulders up. I have no idea what your legs look like though. And in proximity, like I don't know what's going to happen when I actually get to go visit some of my friends from all over the world that I've developed these really deep connections with over Zoom, right?
Yeah.
Deep, like true, authentic connections with. I've never seen their legs. I don't know what they smell like. I don't know what real pigment they are, because who knows what the camera's really giving me, right? There are some things about the people that I love so deeply right now that I have no idea about, and that at before was so important, right? And now no longer important.
Yeah. We definitely moved in a good direction, right? I think we've come together more as people.
Yes.
I'm hoping.
Yes.
Right? Because we see people as people more, because we all went through it together. And I thought the awesome thing with Zoom was I was talking to people all over the world, and I always did, but I could say, what's it like for you?
Yes.
Because it was happening to them too.
Yes.
Right? I had clients in Thailand and Germany and Istanbul and Dubai I was talking to today, and we all went through it together. I thought it was, like you said, the great equalizer. It was kind of like a beautiful, like, how are you pivoting? How are you doing? How's your family? What's it like there for you?
Because you can't buy your way out of this, right? You can't spend more money and get out of this. You can't. it's
no one could find toilet paper. I don't care who you were.
Right? But it was hard for everyone. Like every parent was like, you mean you want me to do what with my kids? My kid has to be in the house the entire time. I don't care how rich you were. That was still your reality, right? Yeah. Like it was a thing. The restaurants that you want to go to are closed, right? People, that you are used to having in your life on a regular basis, you can't see them. And not to mention the loss, right, of the ability to be with people when they're their sickest, right?
Yeah.
And that does. I don't care how much money you have, you still can't go to the hospital to see someone who's sick. And so it just absolutely became the great equalizer in so many ways.
So beautiful. All right. So I want to ask you, I have so many questions. You're a great storyteller. Can you, I want to talk about scaling a little bit because I know you have these businesses, but when was the point, I don't even know what your first business was the point where you said, well, you did talk about coaching a little bit, but I always love to know who your first hire was, because a lot of people don't know where to start. They start with a VA or somebody. I made that mistake, and then I was better off finding like my number two. So I literally gave this stuff like, you need a VA, you go get one. But I need all of this off of my shoulders. And then another great coach told me, always go too deep so you never get it back. I was like, too deep. I'm creating a department, I go too deep so I never get it back.
Yeah. So when I'm a user of my own program, usually they say you're not supposed to get hooked on your own stuff, but I got hooked on my own stuff. And so one of the things we do is we have a program called the Business Maximizer, where we look at 6 different aspects of your business. And I started high level. I was like, I got to find a department head for each of these areas. I needed to find someone who was specifically going to help me with onboarding people, right? So that's your human resources kind of person who's going to help me kind of organize the people. I needed someone who's going to help me organize my business processes and make sure that those are running efficiently. I needed someone to help me with product development. And so that was important. So as I went through the 6 different areas, customer service, those were who I looked at. And then once I had that higher level, okay, if I find a person who does each of these things and they do it well, then my business is then complete enough to where I don't have to do all of the things. And then I use them as business partners. So yes, I have to still do the work. And that's the thing about scaling that people don't understand. You don't just hire someone and then now they do it. You actually still have to be the person. So you still have to know how to do every single process in your business before you turn it over to anyone. If you're going to be successful, you can turn it over if you want, but you're not going to be like, down the line, you're going to be like, oh, I can't find good help. And it's really not the help. It's you. You didn't explain it properly because you didn't know how to do it. And so even with my custom clothing business, I learned how to sew so that I could make sure I could explain what I was looking for when it came down to, I didn't know how to sew, right? I taught myself on YouTube and read some books, tore apart some dresses and figured it out, right? But you have to know every position in your business. And then where I started was, okay, I know I need help with product development. I started there first. Now I'm a purist, right? I feel like money follows excellence. And so before I even market anything, I want to make sure that what my product is so clear and is needed, right? Is actually needed by people. And so I spent a lot of time developing the product itself. Now, where that's beneficial is I have such a book of product, right, when it comes to my program, that I never have to create another piece of content ever in life, ever.
That's pretty impressive.
Because the product itself, there are 24 different topics in life and business. And I can spin that information so many different ways. If I need a webinar, I can just pull a webinar out of my book of content. If I need a talk, I can just pull my information out of that content. So that book of information that I have then became my product. But not only that, I chose licensing, right? I was like, how do I want to grow? I don't want to grow by managing a bunch of people. That wasn't in my long-term life vision. I want to be able to travel the world, be like deuces, and everything still run the way it wants to run. So, and I don't like owning people. I like people having ownership of their own lives. It's a direct product of what I'm teaching, right?
Yep.
And so all of the people who are in my team are all independent contractors. I don't hire on to MinkLife Motivation, but I hire business owners who do it already, and then I pay them as though they're my department. I call them using humans as resources instead of having human resources, right? And so if I hire a VA, I don't want the actual VA, I want the manager of the VA company or the head VA to work in my business, which I have, and she's amazing, and she's in South Africa. Her name is Leanne, and she has now hired 4 VAs for my company, right? And she manages the 4 VAs for my company, and I trained her once, and then she trains them as many times as she needs to train them, right? And so I really focused on that higher level, and then I wanted to make sure that I develop the product so I don't have to kind of redevelop something new and figure out another product. I spent a lot of time in product development. To be honest, it was about 8 months of actual product development, making sure that what I had, I can give away without having to touch it again before it goes. And then the last piece was I'm licensing my program so people can teach what I'm doing, right? Everything that I've done, they can now teach. And they become my workforce. So I don't have salespeople. I have people who are building their own businesses using my product so that they can become a rock star and get the results that they're looking for.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so it's all kind of self-feeding. I have a streaming series that feeds back into the content of the program itself, right? So when I have my MinkLife Motivation Live Mondays talk show, we talk about one of the 24 topics in my program, right? So every single thing that I do comes back to my core product. So I'm not wasting energy trying to create something and then create something new. Even our social media posts come back to the core product, right? And so if you do the product development, really develop the product, it makes every other part of the business substantially easier, because ultimately what it boils down to is, what are you trying to give the world? And if that is crappy, it doesn't matter how great your marketing is, you will still lose them.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, beautiful. Beautiful. I do the exact same thing. So no, it's so cool to hear. Hey,
oh, yay.
I wasn't too far off. Do exactly the same thing.
Yeah, no, I feel like our worlds have we have lived parallel lives this entire time.
Crazy, on 2 different coasts. So how does your faith play a role in your success?
Oh, it is huge. It's everything. It's literally everything. And I just want everyone, so when I talk about faith, I am not specifically denominational, right? So yes, I worked with Orthodox Jewish women, but I am not Orthodox or Jewish, right? I have worked with Muslim women, not with Muslim either. I grew up really kind of heavy Christian, like very conservative Christian, and found myself agnostic at some point because it wasn't serving me the way that I wanted to. I didn't feel it the way that I was supposed to feel it. I was like, this isn't making sense. So I did my own journey to get to know myself better and get to know what works. And so what I have come to understand, and I think this is important no matter what your faith is that your religion and how you practice whatever faith practice you have is designed to be a coping mechanism for hard times. That's what the design is for. And so if we don't look at it as it's just a set of rules that I have to follow, but that this is the practice for when things get hard, then you realize you're actually doing faith work all the time, right? So when someone says you should meditate, you don't meditate for the sake of meditating. You meditate for the sake of, I need to concentrate, because when I need to be focused in on something, I need to be able to have that ability to shut off everything else around me. right? So when I need to be hyper-focused and get this email out, and people are talking on me on the other side here, and the dings are happening on the side, and this is happening on that side, and I'm feeling stressed out, and I got the bills that are kind of hunting me in the back, I need to be able to cut all of that off and be hyper-focused on this one email to get this out so I can get what I need to get done. And when people say, oh, well, you should really read scripture for understanding and this, that, or the other, it's really so that I can understand how the mind works and how all of that plays into mindset, and what are some inspirational things that I can pull from that to keep me moving forward. All those beautiful stories that are told in all of these religions are designed to help you understand that we all go through trials and tribulations, right? But you can overcome. It's been overcome before you for thousands and thousands of years, and you are no different. You are part of that same universal theme, right? And so that is how religion plays a part in my life, in that I realize my spiritual practice is practice for real life and how I'm going to cope with whatever's coming my way. So when I had a really hard week last week, my religion was the undercurrent that kept me above when I was getting all the bad news about the health problems that people were having. And, there was a stagnant point in my business where like money should be flowing in, but people aren't paying their invoices, right? When all of that was happening, I had this undercurrent of joy that, it's gonna be okay. This is what we've practiced. We've worked on this entire time. And that's where faith lands for me.
That's beautiful. So do you turn to anything for inspiration yourself, or how do you do your own self-care in that way?
My own self-care,
whatever.
Yes, I am an early riser. I wake up at 4 a.m. every day. The first 30 minutes of the day belong to me. Well, it's 4:30 now because my husband was getting irritated at me waking up at 4 a.m. and I would wake him up. But so 4:30.
4:30 is okay.
Yeah, 4:30 is my compromise time. But that first 30 minutes is for me, and I use it for whatever I need it to be. So it may need that I need an extra 30 minutes of sleep, and that's okay. It may need that I have some emotional stuff that I need to work through, and I work through that through my journal. It may be that I want to hear some inspirational music or a sermon or read a book, whatever it is that I feel. I wake up and I'm like, I'm feeling this kind of way. I do that. And then I have scheduled actual workout time. Now, I will be honest with you, lately with international calls and having to kind of work with people on the bookends of my day who aren't in the United States, that has kind of been a deterrent. But I do have Sundays where I kind of come back to my, if nothing else, I work out on Sunday, if nothing else. Okay. But I'm also sitting on a yoga ball. So I do get a little bit of exercise throughout the day between calls. I just sit here and kind of bounce a little bit and kind of help my body kind of mood. But the meditation space is really kind of where I do a lot of my work, so that I can kind of set myself up for success.
Yeah, but it sounds like you're allowing the flow to happen. Like You're not making it happen, but you kind of just allow it, forgive yourself if the workout doesn't make it, and just keep going because that's the way life works.
Oh yeah. Especially during this time of COVID, I think a lot of people feel a lot of guilt about the things we should be doing because we supposedly have more time. We don't have any more time than we had before, right? Yeah. And it's filled with other stuff and weird stuff like that we wouldn't normally have to deal with, right? And so I think having a bit of forgiveness, right, for things not being the way they used to be and for them not being normal is the best way to kind of approach this time, because you can't expect yourself to stay normal in unnormal times. You have to be able to ebb and flow like water. And so if you have a stream and you put a big old rock in the middle of the stream, it kind of goes around, the water flows around the rock. And that's kind of how we have to be in this time. Because if you stay rigid, you just will hit the rock over and over again. And that is detrimental to yourself. And you can't serve anyone if you are not serving yourself, right? We talk about in the program, you must be selfish for the sake of everybody else in your life. Yeah. And so if you can't ebb and flow with your own self, how rigid are you going to be with others?
Yeah. Terrific. So beautiful. Thank you, Monica, for your time today. Really amazing.
Oh, thank you. We could probably still, like, you can hit stop record. We can keep talking. This is
Yeah, I know. This is a particularly long one. I was like, this might go into 2.
It might, and I'm okay.
And I could keep asking questions. It's been awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Well, thank you. But thank you for having me on your platform. I really appreciate you.
You are welcome. Thanks.